All right, hello. Welcome back. We got a leg and bicep day, biceps first, for you today. This is my leg day B or leg day 2, more of a quad focus, glutes and quads. I do this one in the morning. Most of the time I train like late afternoon, early evening, so around 5 o'clock or so. But on Wednesdays I teach 6 classes, all in a row with no breaks. Starting from 10:45, ending at 5:25 with a lunch break in there. So what I do is I go early morning for today's session, which tends to be a slightly shorter one than the other leg day, which is like hamstring focus, where I spend a little more time. So immediately preceding this, I had my upper day, and I like to leave biceps out just because there's so much stuff you're doing on an upper day. And I put them on the leg day just before legs, which I guess a lot of the UK and John Jewett style high frequency guys are also doing. But that goes all the way back to like Dante Trudel, right? So something that is old and new at the same time. It works really well. I like it, because the biceps are pretty easy to train. You're not going to really negatively influence your leg training afterward. Whereas if you do the biceps immediately after an upper day or after a back day, you can definitely get some reduced performance there. And I actually do them after my back day, because the day after that is a much longer and harder leg day. And I just don't want to add, 12 minutes to it, doing biceps first. So yeah, for biceps, this is basically my favorite exercise and probably the only one I really need to do. The dual facing away cable curls, where you're really in quite a deep stretch. So get a lot of tension on the muscle in that stretch, and it really kind of isolates the peak quite a bit. That's something that I really hadn't learned about bicep training until pretty late, maybe like last year, which is generally you want to stick to things that don't engage your forearms, don't engage the brachialis, and don't engage the delts very much, and are really focused on just feeling that peak. That's really what makes your arms grow. When you doing stuff like hammer curls, barbell curls, you just kind of get a lot of extra other musculature involved in there, which, if you're beginner or intermediate, that isn't necessarily a bad thing. But when you're more advanced and you're trying to do well in classic physique competitions, and things like balance and symmetry are important, then a more delicate and focused approach to training starts to be mandated. And so that's why I'm training biceps in this very sort of targeted way now. I generally do 2 lifts for biceps. Not in the same session, but like I do this one, and then I do the a variation of the incline curl, where I'm actually seated like facing away on a lat pull down machine using the pad to brace my elbows against. So it's like a combination between a concentration curl and a incline dumbbell curl. So you actually get a lot of tension at both the stretch and the contraction, which is great for training biceps, where you kind of don't want much in the mid-range, but you do want a lot at both the stretch and the contraction. So up next I actually do is hip thrust. My leg training is going to look a lot different than most people, because I actually started lifting through Olympic lifting. Not CrossFit, no. Actually Olympic lifting, snatch, clean, and jerk. I started that in 2009. Started lifting, I think, 2008. I would have been 19 years old, yeah. I remember I saw a Dmitry Klokov video. I think it was 2005. World Championships. I'm like, holy shit, I got to do that. It's amazing. And we had iron plates. There's no bumpers, dog shit barbells. And I was going to my university gym. I would have been a sophomore or junior maybe, and just driving the employees nuts, because I would sometimes miss a lift and drop the weight. They're like, oh, what are you doing? You're making noise in a gym? How fucking dare you? And they're like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. It was just an accident. Didn't make a lift, and that was a little frustrating. But yeah, I loved my time Olympic lifting. However, I picked up a lot of really bad habits that kind of messed me up with bodybuilding. And I mean a lot of bad habits, right? Bodybuilding and Olympic lifting are like opposites. Somebody can transition from powerlifting to bodybuilding, or vice versa, very easily. There's a lot of carryover between those two sports. Powerlifters generally do a lot of hypertrophy work and need big muscles, especially they tend to need to train a lot of upper body for getting that bench press going, because bench press is very dependent on just overall upper body musculature. Olympic lifting is not powerlifting, right? You're trying to move the weight from point A to B with as little tension on the muscle as possible, right? Which is completely different. And you actually need to actively avoid too much hypertrophy work. You can do some, but like too much actually can become positively counterproductive. And also my squatting style was very narrow, very upright, and it didn't engage glutes very much. My pulling style was the same. I was very quad and lower back dominant puller. So when I'm doing my first pull in the snatch, clean, and jerk, it was very like erectors and quads and not so much hamstrings and glutes. That was just kind of my lifting style that I converged upon as far as what was best for me personally. Not everybody does that though. And so as I kind of continued lifting and dropped Olympic lifting, I still squatted. And I squatted it again with that very narrow, high bar, upright stance with very little glute activation. And I actually had fairly high erector activation. So if you look at some of my older videos, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. And that led to some pretty bad imbalances that I still have now after, what is it, so many years of lifting. And basically my quads are just way ahead of my glutes. My hamstrings are cut up pretty well, actually, because I was still a good deadlifter. But that means that my needs for leg training are quite different than most people. What most people do is they have dog shit ankle mobility. They're very leaned over in their squats, and they're very posterior chain dominant in their squats, which, believe it or not, in modern bodybuilding is actually a good thing because glutes and hamstrings are just so heavily weighted in the judging criteria. That's exactly why Derek Lunsford won the Olympia over Hadi or Andrew Jack or Samson, because judges just have this weird fixation on shredded glutes and hamstrings, even though like to basically any normal person and even to us bodybuilding insiders, like those three look a lot better than Derek. Let's be honest, right? In every other dimension except glutes and hams, but they're given a disordinate amount of weight in the judging criteria. So most people are very leaned over, very poor ankle mobility. They can't really hit adequate depth, and so they generally have overdeveloped glutes and underdeveloped quads. And so doing something like starting with hip thrust would not really be what they would want to do most of the time, but it is what I want to do. Now it's not playing yet, but I actually decided to try out a hack squat. Before this, I was doing belt squats, but again, because I'm under time constraints, I got to work after this. I can't quite make it to the gym. Well, I could. It's harder for me to make it to the gym that has a belt squat machine. This one doesn't. And so I just said, you know what, hack squats, they got to have some glutes in there too, right? They can't be just like all quads, right? So I figured I'd go ahead and try out some hack squats today. And this was literally my first time ever doing a working set of hack squats. Well, as you'll see, didn't go so good. My heels were leaving the platform. I just kind of had a lot of trouble feeling it in any muscle group except for my VMO. Maybe that's actually how it's supposed to be. I'm not really sure. But it felt very anterior chain dominant. And when I tried to put my feet forward more, I felt like I was going to collapse and fall over. It just was really hard to balance. So I had to keep my feet relatively low on the platform. And overall, it just didn't quite feel like it was for me. That said, I think if somebody had a more normal path in their lifting journey and has the more typical profile, the hack squat is great. Going to really bias the quads quite a bit. So yeah, you can see right here, like my heels are leaving the platform literally every rep. Obviously, I'm pausing the bottom. I have pretty good mobility, but not good enough here, clearly. So after this, I had a gigantic quad pump. It felt great, but I didn't really feel much tension in my glutes and literally zero in the hamstring. So this is probably good for a lot of other lifters, just not really good for where I'm at, where I really need to pay attention to glutes and hamstrings more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep going to this gym. I don't want to have to go all the way to the belt squat gym. And I will do Bulgarian split squats on this day instead. I'm going to use the stick in my other hand, hold a dumbbell with one hand, and that way I have some external bracing, which helps with making the lift more about tension on the quads, glutes, and hamstrings all together, and less about bracing and balance. Although I did do, during this off season, 40 kilo dumbbells with a deficit, so like putting a platform under my front foot too, And they did that for 8 reps or 10 reps on each side. I forgot. But yeah, I definitely could balance. But like generally, if you want to do higher reps, which I do want to do higher than 8s or 10s, you're probably going to need some external bracing. So I'll use the stick for that. Is that going to limit the amount of load I can use? You know, I mean, I can't really load. There's no 80 kilo dumbbell, for instance. Yeah, I guess. But, you know, if I'm doing sets of 15 or whatever, that's okay. Does that mean that a lot of the limitation will be cardio? Yeah, which is, again, kind of okay because, you know, I got a heavy leg press on the other day, on my glute and ham day. So I'll be doing the Bulgarian split squats next time and for the foreseeable future on this secondary leg day for a little bit more balanced leg development. Because, you know, Bulgarian split squats, unlike hacks, they're going to hit quads, glutes, and hams all kind of evenly, and you can play around with the stance quite a bit, to the tempo and the depth to bias one or the other, and I guess your torso angle as well. I'm going to do them definitely more glute biased than anything else, because like I said before, that's kind of predominantly what I need. Anyways, yeah, I think that's about it. I'm looking forward to trying those Bulgarian split squats again. I'm already pretty skilled at them, and again, my hack squats, I feel like embarrassed because it's like one plate and I'm like struggling. It's hard, but you know, any brand new movement like that, you're never going to be super good at it and be able to move a lot of weight. And again, this is literally my very first time doing it. Right, so I guess that pretty much wraps things up. Don't have much else to say, and goodbye. See you next one.